Look, we don't want dictators, right? You don't. In fact, honestly, you live most of your life like a dictator. You walk around slapping people, demanding food, and honestly, I see the way you look at the squirrels. I know you want to kill them all. That being said, we don't want dictators in our life, right? Reading a book, it's called On Tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century. It talks about the tyranny of the Communist Party, Czechoslovakia, Romania, USSR, and the tyranny of the Nazi Party. And guys, spoiler alert, it ain't good. But there's some patterns that we got to look out for. Hey, what's up? Good to see you. Yeah, you're a little tyrannical treat, aren't you, yourself? So we're going to start with the first one tonight. We're not going to follow the book. I don't know this gentleman. He's a professor at Yale. Obviously, this is going to be pretty biased politically, and that's not what I make these videos for. I'm not here to tell you who to vote for. I do want to talk about how much I love my country. I love it. This is going to be hurtful. I love it more than you. And guys, I love you very much. But I think this country is going to give a lot of good things to future generations if we keep the good stuff and keep out the bad stuff. That's today's paper, right? I don't need to read it because I listened to all the news on the app today. Here's the thing. I think newspapers are extremely important. You understand? I know there's this general malaise, I think is the right word, where people really don't trust the media now, from the right and the left. However, I do think the current oncoming administration has made it very vocal that they are going to pursue criminal charges against people. And sometimes they say people who've broken the law, and sometimes they don't say that. And it's more the second part of that scares me. Even the first part scares me a little bit. Because politicians should not like a good deal of journalists, right? I don't know if that's true, but it feels like that's understandable, right? However, I do think that the founding people of this country, right? I'm going to say people. There's a lot of people. I consider Abraham Lincoln to be one of the forefront of those guys, even though he came across 90 years later. They all believed the press was an essential thing because it was a new thing that ideally is independent, but often isn't, right? There's right and left. Look, I read the news in the Wall Street Journal. Oftentimes when I get to the opinion page, I think, well, this is a problem. Sometimes I'm like, this is great. Sometimes I'm like, this is a problem. And sometimes it makes me angry because I disagree so much. But here's the beautiful thing. That's America, baby. I get to disagree, right? Just like you guys. Sometimes when you're getting your kibble in bits and you don't think you got enough, and or you think your partner, I mean that not in a cat way, not in a life way. Your partner takes too much out of your bowl, right? Instead of looking after their own bowl. And you express concern and distrust, and that's a good thing. Our voices are an important thing. So anybody who says the media is the problem, the media needs to be shut down, that's a surefire sign that things are about to get really bad. There are news people out there who love the candidate, and there are a lot of news people who do not like him, right? And I think oftentimes when people mention media, we start thinking about, the TV media or websites. I really think newspapers are the way to go. I can tell you're enthralled with this conversation. I do think newspapers are the way to go. Hey, everybody's fine. And you see her shaking her head, that means she doesn't like that. I learned that when we picked this one up at the shelter. They were like you can read a cat's language. If they shake their head, that means they don't like it. I said, what happens if they nod and give you a thumbs up? And the lady said, can you just take your cat and go? I think the media is an important institution. And one of the things that we have to look for when authoritarianism may be bubbling up in certain corners is that they really want to see institutions fail. I'm going to give you, for instance, you over here, you may say, well, how or why are newspapers important, right? I can tell that's what you're thinking. It's hurting your brain. You had to turn it upside down. Oh, now we're back right side up. Just this week, the Wall Street Journal had an article about a bipartisan bill for child safety. And in that article, it mentioned that they were going to open up liability clauses for the big social media companies if they allow children to get on there and those children are exploited or harmed. Here's what happened. Meta and Alphabet went to bat with their lobbyists. They told certain lobbies to go to the right and certain lobbies to go to the left, and they told them everything they wanted to hear or everything they wanted to fear, right? For instance, those on the right were told, this is going to shut down pro-life dialogue for some reason. I don't know how that actually works. And those on the left were told this is going to shut down LGBTQ kids. They're not going to have a chance to talk about themselves or express themselves, I mean. So it got shut down. It's been couched. It worked. The lobbying worked. It made everybody afraid of things that most likely would not happen. And then we're stuck with this wild west of social media for kids with no safeguards. Do you understand? I wouldn't have known any of this had it not been for journalists who had to go in there, talk to a bucket load of people. Just a bucket load. Hey, please don't tear up the chair. They went and talked to them. They traveled. They got multiple sources for this story. I would argue that this story is not really pro-business, even though Wall Street Journal is a pro-business newspaper. It's just there to tell you the facts. A lot of times, you just have to dig. They're there. And that's important. And I can give you countless other accounts of that. Really with no agenda. They're just telling you, hey, here's some problems. How do we look at this differently? That's beautiful. And that's America. Benjamin Franklin, he was a writer. He printed newspapers by the truckloads, right? I would argue he had a pretty big influence about our freedom. These people get it. They've seen people jailed for printing things that people don't like. A few presidents even tried jailing those people who said things that those presidents didn't like, and it bounced back at them, right? And maybe that's what will happen now. But I do think that oftentimes when there's a big regime change and they believe that there's a big mandate for it, they can really go after punishing, honestly, one of the defenders of our Bill of Rights. Yes, are journalists biased? Absolutely. Look, you're even biased in what you choose to report, and I get that. That's why I think you need a lot of sources and you need a lot of news. However, I can tell you're enthralled by this speech. Let's go back to one of the other cats. Journalists are not your enemy. Do you understand? They're not. And honestly, if they're your enemy, you got some weak sauce line of thinking. So I'm here to tell you that one thing we need to be looking out for in the next couple of months is anybody who's overly zealous about punishing people for just doing their job. And I get it. If somebody printed libel about me, you have the right to sue them. Take them to court. Sue the company that allowed that to go without any fact checks. That's a beautiful thing. Utilize that. And some of that may happen, and that part of it's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking more about the criminal, threats. Putting people in power who just want to punish people. And I don't think that's good. And I don't think you think it's good. And you give me a little blink when I said that. So I appreciate you. Look, I'm not saying anything profound here. I know that. I'm not saying anything new. I'm just saying if your guy won, then congratulations. But now what we have to do is make sure that the institutions that have allowed this country to keep moving forward, to become one of the greatest nations in the history of all time, continue to exist and be bettered every day. We're not here to see things get torn down. We're not here to have loyalty towards one person. We're here to have loyalty, and really, honestly, to whatever you choose. But I would hope that we have loyalty to your God, to your country, and ultimately to the San Antonio Spurs. If you watch this video and you haven't fallen asleep, like many of my friends here, thanks for watching. I know this isn't as fun, and I don't feel as comfortable talking about this type of stuff, but seeing some of the things that I see, it's worrisome, right? And if you're in the comments and you're like, hey man, there's nothing to be worried about, then thank you. If you come into the comments and you're like, listen, your face looks like a banana and I'm going to fight you in the streets, I will take umbrage to that. My face does not look like a banana, no matter what the other classmates in 6th grade said.